Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back for week 6 of our Love is mini-series. It's been so fun getting a deeper look at 1 Corinthians 13 and what it looks like to love the way that Jesus does. And I hope that you're enjoying it too. I hope that you are learning something right along with me. Before we dive in, screenshot this episode, share it, tag me, let me know you're here. I love getting to see who is listening. Tell me what you're learning. Tell me what you're loving about the series. I think it's so fun to hear from you guys. So let me know and then come back and we'll dive right in. Okay, this week is going to be a good one. We're talking about how love does not demand its own way, or some translations say love is not self-seeking. Ooh. Now, I've been mentioning this idea of shifting our focus from ourselves to other people pretty much every week at this point, but don't check out yet, okay? Like, this is still going to be really rich. Like, there's something here that is going to be so good, and I cannot wait to dive in with you today. So stay with me. This is going to be a little deeper, and I think that we're really going to learn something new, okay? So sound good? You already know we've got to start with the definitions. And this was a little bit tricky to get a full picture. So I started with looking into the phrase self seeking. And that means self serving or having a concern for one's own welfare and interests before those of others. Makes sense. And then I wanted to get a better understanding of what it actually means to demand your own way. So, to demand is to ask authoritatively or brusquely, to ask with authority, abruptly, impatiently. So, an example that immediately came to mind for me, this might be silly, but as somebody who reads a lot of books, is toxic relationships. And sometimes, in these stories, we get this like really rude villain, kind of like enemy character. And it could be like the manipulative, rude, demanding boyfriend that's just entitled and expects everybody to do whatever he wants whenever he wants. End of story. Or like, have you read a book or seen a movie or a story where there's like this really mean mom who's just very bossy, expects everyone to hand it everything she wants to her on a silver platter, just very unaware of the feelings of others, just does not care. She's like, my way or the highway. Like, those people, not cute, not fun to be around, right? And so that's kind of what I think of when I think of this idea of demanding your own way. Like, that sounds pretty harsh, right? So obviously examples like this are the extreme, but it's really easy for us to look at these scenarios and think, gosh, that person is horrible. Why would anybody want to be in a relationship with him? But the thing is, we all have moments where we expect to be treated a certain way, or we feel like we deserve something from others or even from God. And it could be a sense of power over somebody. It could be entitlement. It could be even just privilege that we are unaware of. But regardless, this is just not a good way for us to be operating. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. So when we have this kind of mindset, whether it's the extreme, like the examples I just mentioned, or just simply feeling like you deserve something that you have a right to, we just cannot really love others well or at all, really, if we are living from this mindset, right? So, how do you know if you are operating from a self seeking mindset? Well, I was thinking this through, and I think honestly, the easiest way to test this would be taking a look at your responses. So, how do you respond when things don't go the way that you planned? They don't go the way that you wanted them to, or when somebody lets you down, or when your expectations aren't met? Do you get angry? Do you blame others? Do you have a huge thunderstorm, as we call them in our house, when you are just like having an emotional breakdown? Like, you're just, things are not going the way you want them to, and you get upset. If your answer is yes, I think that's a pretty good indicator that you have a hard time valuing others as much as you value yourself. And this is some tough love today, okay? I get that. But bear in mind, I am talking to myself as much as I am talking to you today. So, like I said, that's just one way that we can kind of take self inventory and see maybe what our responses are showing us about the way that we view ourselves in relation to other people. And we all deal with this at different levels all throughout life. I'm not calling you a narcissist, okay? Take a breath. It's fine. But I mean, it's totally normal to experience disappointment in life. But what we're talking about here is how your response to those moments of disappointment or feeling let down, the way that that impacts the way you relate to and interact with others. Something that I wrote in my journal when I was going through this study a few years ago is love is not singular. It involves somebody else. And what a good reminder, right? Like, love is not just, yay, I love people. It's like, it has this level or like kind of this insinuated idea of being in relationship. Like, you can't really love somebody that you don't have a relationship, right? Like, you can say that you love a celebrity, but it's more probably just like an interest or infatuation. Like, it's not the same as being in a relationship with somebody, because how can you truly love somebody that you don't know? And so when we are self-seeking, it's hard for us to be in relationship because we don't really have an interest in knowing others, right? And again, this is kind of like yucky to hear about ourselves, but I think it's something that we need to grow an awareness of, because we don't want to ever get caught in this mindset of operating this way, you know? And it's easy to miss that idea of love being a relationship to others. And I'm not just saying like being in a close relationship. It could be the relationship you have to your neighbor, to the person that you work with, to, anybody. But a huge part, I think, of maturing in our faith is broadening our vision and perspective and our awareness, like I mentioned. And that includes growing in awareness of how our words and actions affect other people. We've been having so many conversations about this with our 3-year-old lately that it's just fresh on my mind. But, we've been talking to him about how he isn't the only one who experiences the consequence of his behaviors. And that's good or bad. And the same applies to us, because pretty much everything we do, all the decisions we make, they affect other people. They impact others in some way. So we've just got to be mindful of this. And so, Jesus did such a good job of this. And the more that I read the Gospels, the more that I start to see how he balanced things that were important to him. Okay, so like there are so many times throughout the scriptures where it's noted that Jesus went away to be by himself, to get away from the crowds, to fast, to pray, to sleep, and he took care of himself. He had an awareness of his own needs that needed to be met. He had boundaries as well, because he wasn't a people pleaser, but something he did super well was making sure that he was filled so that he actually had something to pour out when he was with people. And that's just brilliant, right? Like, he made sure that his spirit, soul, and body stayed healthy and filled up so he could actually be present and available when he was with people. And I think that's just the perfect picture of balance. And I mean, balance is kind of this thing that everybody talks about. It's like, what is balance? It's this elusive thing that can we actually even get a hold of? Like, is it actually something that's possible? And I think it's just constantly a fluid thing that changes in different seasons of life. But in one of my recent vision workshops, something I shared is how if anybody had a reason to keep his eyes straight ahead, nose to the grindstone, like because there was a mission to be done, it was Jesus, right? Like, this guy, he had one job. Like, he had a purpose to complete while he was on the earth. Like, if anybody had an excuse to just keep moving on and not really worry about what other people were doing, it was Jesus. But he never let his calling become an excuse for moving forward and ignoring the needs of others. He understood that his calling and his purpose and loving others were one and the same. They are not separate missions. And going back to what I said about Jesus not being a people pleaser, he also told people no. There's a story in the Gospels where Jesus is in a town and he's helping people, healing people, he's doing miracles, and they ask him to stay. And he said no. He said, like, he has to keep going. And so Jesus, he was just so good at this. Like, he's our perfect example for this, because there are two extremes here, I think. There's the side of putting yourself before anyone else and demanding that everything goes your way. And there's also the side of things where it's giving everyone else their way and basically becoming a doormat. And neither one of these is healthy, and it's not effective either. So how do we find the sweet spot? I think that if you take a good look at how you currently respond when you feel let down, That's certainly an indicator of how you see your own needs and desires and how you expect other people to meet those desires and or fulfill them for you in a way. But maybe the next step is then to acknowledge the areas where you might possibly be expecting too much from others. Maybe there are areas in your life that you're waiting for somebody to come and fulfill for you, like a boyfriend or a job or an amount of money in the bank or a status, a promotion, whatever it may be, something to fill in the gaps in your life. And this is where we really need to come back to Jesus, because when we are completely satisfied in Him and secure in Him, we won't be waiting around for other people to come and complete us or fill us. And we won't be ending up angry or disappointed over and over and over again when we have expectations for others that aren't being met. And the beauty of letting Jesus be the one to fill in the gaps for you is that once you're filled, you'll know you have what you need. Like when you have needs, you can trust God to be your provider. And that just frees up so much space in your heart and in your mind and in your life to be there for other people. Just like Jesus, like his needs were met, he was taken care of so that he could show up and be aware and available to other people and to love them well. And love is a two-way street, right? Like I'm sure you've heard this phrase. It's not just one person putting in all the effort. It's being willing to consider others in everything you do. It's giving space for people to succeed and thrive and get their needs met, not just your own, right? And the keyword that keeps popping up for me all throughout all of this is expectations. Expectations. What are we expecting from others that continually leads to us feeling let down? Because I just want to give you a challenge this week, and I'm talking to myself as well, because every week in the book, there's a challenge that goes along with what we're learning. So I think I may start sprinkling that in for us here. So this week, I want to challenge you, just take inventory of your expectations and see if there are any needs that you feel are consistently not being met by the people around you. Are those things that you can take to Jesus and you can get filled and let go of that frustration of constantly expecting other people to meet those needs or to do things your way? And then, on a really practical note, this is the challenge that's in the book this week. Ask yourself if there are any relationships where you are usually the one calling all the shots. Maybe it's with your kids or your spouse or with a friend. Just simply ask that person if there is anything they've wanted to say or do that you haven't given them space for. And then here's the key: hear them, listen to what they have to say, and then do things their way without complaining and just see what happens. If you end up taking me up on this challenge, please send me a DM. Let me know how it goes, because I am always challenged by this, because I think I don't even realize sometimes the relationships or the areas of my life where I'm just expecting things to go my way, whether it's like my schedule, like putting things on the calendar without even considering Christopher or Judah and like how that affects them, or like in relationships, like always choosing where we go, always choosing, what we talk about, or, like I think sometimes all we need to do to remedy this self-seeking behavior is just give other people some space. Like give them room to speak and to share their heart. Like ask how they're doing. It could literally be as simple as that. So let me know about your experience if you take me up on the challenge this week. I would love to hear what you're learning. I would love to hear about your experience so far in the series. And I'm just excited to keep digging in. I can't believe that next week we will officially be halfway through the challenge, but I hope you're loving it as much as I am. I am truly learning so much. That's all for today, though. So I will see you right back here next Monday for week 7. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to tune into another episode of the Byword Show. I love having you here, and I'm so thankful for your support. Don't forget to share a screenshot of this episode to let me know you were here. I can't wait to talk again soon, but in the meantime, be sure to come hang out with me on Instagram, and remember, I am cheering you on.